Hi, I'm Doug Young. I'm a contributing editor to Acoustic Guitar Magazine, and today I want to talk about using a looper. And we'll take a look at two different looper pedals, one that's very simple and one that's on the more complicated side. We'll take a look at the features and also show you some ideas for using it. Now, a looper is basically a digital recorder that goes between your guitar and an amp or your PA system, and you can press a button to record what you're playing and then press it again to play it back immediately. Loopers have been around for quite a while, but people like Ed Sheeran and a number of other pop performers lately have been making them more visible and showing how effective they can be in live shows. And, with digital electronics getting better and cheaper all the time, there are a lot of loopers available to choose from out there. So what we're going to look at here today is just an example of a few that you can get an idea of the features, but it's actually a lot to look into to decide what looper you might want to actually use. Now, it's easier to demonstrate a looper than to talk about them. So let's just jump in. We'll start with one of the simplest loopers on the market, the Ditto by TC Electronic. There are others that are like this, but this is one of the simpler examples. It's a very small pedal, and it has only a single button along with a volume control that adjusts the level of the playback. The most obvious use of a looper is probably to capture a rhythm guitar track that then you can sing or play over. So let's start with that. Watch the screen and let's just follow what I do. So now I've recorded a track and it'll play back without me doing anything, no hands. I can stop the loop anytime by pressing twice on the button. I can start it again by clicking. If I click while I'm playing, I'll go into overdub mode and I can record another part. And now I click again and we'll hear both parts. Now if I double click, it'll stop. And also, if I want to just stop completely and erase the final track, I can sort of triple click. Let me start it again and show you. And now I hold, the light flashes for a minute, and then it shuts off. So now that we've gone through the basic functionality of this, let me just record another simple loop, and you can watch how I do it with pressing the buttons. We'll start, in this case, by creating a drum track by hitting the guitar. And then I'll layer on a bass track and we'll go from there. Now, loopers are great for expanding your sound for live performances, but even if you have no interest in live looping, these devices are really useful for a lot of other things. They're a great practice tool, for example. To start with, spending a bit of time with the looper will really tighten up your timing. You can lay down a track, you can practice improvising, you could record a bass line and then practice your rhythm guitar. They're also a great composition and arranging tool. It's really easy to capture an idea, listen back to see if you like it without having to go through a whole setup of a recording studio. And by the way, I'm only looping the guitar here, but it's possible to put together a setup that loops your vocals too, or any instrument for that matter. So you could use the looper to work out harmony, incorporate vocals into loops of a live performance, you could add background vocals and so on. So as you can see, you can do a lot with even a very simple one-button looper. But there are lots of options out there, and many loopers have advanced features that let you do a lot more. So let's take a look at one example, one looper called the Boomerang 3. And as you can see, there's a lot more buttons on this box. And there is a bit of a learning curve with these more complex loopers. But also some things are actually easier. For example, with the boomerang, I have separate buttons for starting, stopping, and erasing. So I don't have to do the double click that I had to do with the simple one button looper. The key feature on the boomerang, though, as well as some other more complex loopers, is that we can have multiple loops. It's almost like having 3 separate loopers, except that these loopers can be coordinated in several ways. Loops can play back sequentially or in parallel. So let's take a look at the sequential loop feature first. In this mode, I can record a loop and at any time press another button. It'll stop recording the first loop, start recording the second. Once I have 2 or more recorded, I can play them back in any order, and each loop will start after the other one is done. It's easier to demo this, so watch the screen and my foot. Now, I can play the 1 chord. I played a 1-4-5 progression there, recording each chord on a different loop. And now I'm going to play the 1 chord as long as I want, and I can play over it. But at any time I want to go to the 4 chord, I just click on the second button and it'll switch when the loop ends. Now I can go back to the 1. Now that might be a rather silly use of this feature. I wouldn't want to have to play a song by changing all the chords with the looper. But the same idea can be used to, for example, record the verse, record the chords to a chorus, and then a bridge. And then we can switch between them at will throughout the song. So now let's look at the parallel loop mode. This is sort of like overdubbing, but with some added benefits. For one thing, once we record, we can easily start and stop any individual loop at any time. So this is great for getting some variety. Not everything has to be playing all the time. But there's also another cool feature, and you might have noticed when I was demoing the Ditto that the overdubs are all the same length as the first loop. So you lay down an initial loop and then you repeat that same length over and over. But with multiple synchronized loops, I can create an initial loop of any length, and the other loops can be any multiple of that first loop. So let me demonstrate with a simple 2-bar bass line, and then I'll add 8 bars of rhythm guitar over top of it. So there's a quick look at looping. There are dozens of loopers out there, and each has slightly different features, and really what you can do with them is only limited by your imagination.